Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, interestingly enough, Carlos Takam's promoter has said that the deal between him and Tyson Fury for December the 5th was literally 98% done, and that was who Tyson Fury was going to be fighting on December 5th of this year. Now, that is interesting and rather conflicting because we knew that a contract had been sent out to Agit Kabayel, and that was supposed to be who Tyson Fury was fighting on December 5th, not Carlos Takam. I mean, he was being considered, but Carlos Takam is not even within the top 15 of the WBC. So how was he going to be able to get that kind of fight anyway? So considering the fact that the fight was apparently 98% done according to Carlos Takam's promoter, then what was actually going on with this December 5th date? Now, we knew that he was supposed to be fighting Agit Kabayel, and the reason why they didn't do it is because of the money. They weren't confident they could get enough pay-per-view numbers to warrant having this fight, so it was scrapped. Now, in there with someone like Kabayel, yes, there's probably not going to be a huge amount of interest in there because it does kind of fall under the category of being just a run-out for Tyson Fury, an interim fight, so therefore does not warrant a kind of comeback to the UK in some sense. I mean, there would be many who would pay to watch it, but they would have to probably put the price point at £25. No one's going to pay £25 to watch Tyson Fury versus Kabayel. Some will, not everyone. And they need more than just some to buy into this fight for them to do it, so it was scrapped. Was Carlos Takam going to be any better? No. The reason why it might be a little bit better is because he's been in there with names like Derek Chisora and Anthony Joshua. That is the only way Carlos Takam would be a better name for Tyson Fury as opposed to Kabayel, because Kabayel has one good victory over Derek Chisora, which was years ago. He hasn't done really anything since. He has a padded 20-0 record. No disrespect, but I mean, considering he beat Derek Chisora, you would think that, okay, get a big name, get a good win, then get some traction. But that was 3 years ago, and he's not done much since. So effectively, he didn't really warrant a shot at Tyson Fury, and effectively, he doesn't have the fan base and the media exposure for this kind of fight. Tyson Fury needs to be in there with someone like Deontay Wilder, someone like Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Andy Ruiz, those kind of fighters that will sell for Tyson Fury. The reason why Anthony Joshua is able to sell out back to back is because he takes those tough fights. Like, I mean, Carlos Takam back in the day, I mean, that was a replacement for Kubrat Pulev. So Anthony Joshua could do little about that one, but in the case of Alexander Povetkin, Andy Ruiz Jr., Vladimir Klitschko, I mean, these kind of fights. Joseph Parker also is in there. So that is the reason why Anthony Joshua is able to sell out Wembley, sell out the Principality Stadium, and get brilliant pay-per-view numbers, is because he's constantly in those tough fights. I mean, if you put Anthony Joshua in there with Kabayel, it's not going to be a fight that sells extremely well compared to something like Andy Ruiz, Joseph Parker, Povetkin, Klitschko. It's because these tough fights are constantly lined up for Anthony Joshua, and I think that that's the thing that needs to happen with Tyson Fury. And it's not Tyson Fury that doesn't want the big fights, it's just on December 5th, who was there that was around? Everyone was tied up. Andy Ruiz is fighting Areola, Joseph Parker is fighting Junior Farr, Anthony Joshua is fighting Kubrat Pulev, Alexander Povetkin was going to fight Dillian White. So there were many fighters there, but they were all tied up, so Tyson Fury had to kind of go a little bit lower down the list, and ultimately there just wasn't a big name. I wanted him to fight Michael Hunter or Oscar Rivas, but the problem still remains. Are they big enough names to sell a pay-per-view alongside Tyson Fury? You have to question that. No, I would say they are not. I mean, you do need a big name to go alongside a superstar like Tyson Fury in order to sell a pay-per-view. You do. Tyson Fury will sell a certain amount of tickets just based on someone wanting to watch Tyson Fury, but for someone who wants to see the tough fights, the best fight the best, seeing Tyson Fury in there challenging himself against Ruiz, against say Joseph Parker even, those are the kind of fights that will generate big pay-per-view numbers, just as Fury versus Wilder did. Fury versus Kabayel was never going to do that. And apparently Carlos Takam was also in the running for this fight. According to his promoter, was a 98% there to making the fight with Tyson Fury. Now, I don't necessarily believe that Tyson Fury was going to fight Carlos Takam. I think that maybe they do need a little bit of media coverage for Carlos Takam, but ultimately I think that he was in with a running, but I would imagine it would be on the undercard of Tyson Fury versus Kabayel, and say Kabayel tests positive for COVID or gets an injury, then maybe Carlos Takam comes in. I would imagine that that was the capacity in which he was being considered for this Tyson Fury fight. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Apparently Carlos Takam was 98% there to fighting Tyson Fury on December 5th. I do doubt that, but maybe there is some truth in it, in the fact that maybe he was going to fight on the undercard or just be a potential late replacement, provided the worst does happen and Kabayel tests positive for COVID or gets an injury. Maybe that was the capacity in which he was being considered for this fight. Nonetheless, the fight isn't happening, and hopefully Tyson Fury's next fight will be Anthony Joshua. It could still be Deontay Wilder, depending upon what happens in this mediation, and pending if a court case does follow. I guess we will just have to wait and see as to what happens with regards to that. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.